have this weird tendency where I'll find something or something will come my way and I'll take it up as a hobby, but then I tend to take it a bit too far. I like the adventure of it. It was, several months where I was every day would go down to the shop and just like get at it. If there's a challenge, I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna keep going. And it's like I would say that until I run out of money, but I've done that. At some point, it's not even stubbornness. It's just like, all right, like I'm in this. I've spent a bunch of money, tons of time. I don't want it to become a burden, but it's also like, okay, you got yourself into this mess, you gotta figure your way out. I feel that I'm capable of a lot of stuff, and I just want to find out how far I can take that. I am from New York, but I'm from upstate. And I've lived here for the last almost 4 years. I'm a photographer technically, I am a carpenter technically, and I make wristwatches. With photography, I did journalism for a long time and then switched over to doing more portrait work because that's really what I wanted. And I was shooting film and then stumbled across a lens up in Chicago that was made in 1849, old Petzl. Big ass, super fast brass lens. Found that and went looking for slow emulsions and kind of bumped into the tintype emulsion. I mean, the first camera I built was a 16 by 20. It was just like an afternoon, like, I think we can do this. And my buddy Zach and I went to Home Depot and just bought a bunch of wood. I think we spent $160 total on everything and went back to my studio and slapped the thing together, and by the end of the day had made a 60 by 20 with it. It was terrible. It was like this wooden thing and it had trash bags for bellows and it looked horrendous. At the time I was doing Newport Music Festival every year, doing portraits of the artists, and I took it up there and photographed some like, Chris Christopherson with this $160 wood and trash bag contraption. And so after that I was like, I should really do something a bit better. I think I ended up spending probably $8,000 or $9,000, and then I don't know how, who knows how many hours of work. That escalated very similar to the watches. I'm really taking care of all my old man hobbies in my 40s, and I started in my 30s. Like I've made model airplanes. What was the other one? Oh, repaired typewriters, fixed watches. I don't know what else do old men do. Okay. I think I have gifts, mechanical gifts. Like I'm able to make stuff and see how to fix it. During COVID, I didn't have much to do, and so I started buying old watches and learning to fix them on my own, and that's not the best way to do it, but I wanted a watch, and so I was looking, and I'd go antiquing, and I'd see watches, and anything that I saw that was cheap or within my price range, or what I thought was my price range, I didn't like it. Initially, the project was like literally to make myself a watch, and that was it. And I didn't have any plans of making more than one. And then it became, it's like everything with me, where it gets away from me a little bit. Where I started buying tools, just manual tools to work on a manual lathe, and I was spending whatever hundreds of bucks getting stuff to do that, and materials and blah blah blah. But then when I switched over to like, okay, I got to make my own CNCs, I was like, shit. I don't know, maybe it's like a little bit of arrogance. I have this terrible habit of thinking that I can do something cheaper and better, even though I have no experience to back that thought up. A lot of the project is sort of a necessity thing where it's like I couldn't find a CNC to fit down the stairs of a brownstone in Brooklyn, and so I built one. couldn't find a watch I wanted, so I built one. I don't know, there's a thread of unhealthy decisions. Bad financial decisions. So far, the tools that I have in the shop here, it's a micro CNC 3-axis milling machine. So that I make the hands and the dials with. The piece can only move 50 millimeters, but it's very, very precise. So I created that. That was the first time I built a CNC machine, and it was, I very much winged that one. That was the first machines. That was a 3-axis, and I learned a lot with that. And then I was struggling more and more with making the cases on manual lathes that are, the ones that I was using were not designed to make watches or much. And so then I started and built the second machine, which is a considerably bigger. So very simply, CNC stands for computer numeric controlled. And it's essentially, if you know what a drill press is, this is the part that turns and the drill bit or tool goes into the spindle there. This spins like this, and then you have underneath that you have a table, and the table has two what you call axes. So those are moving plates. So there's an x-axis that moves this way, and there's a y-axis that moves this way, and then the whole spindle is the z-axis, and that can come up and down. So what that gives you is a 3-dimensional cutting ability. This is some wheelchair ramps that I found somebody had thrown out. Part of the case down there is steel that I found on a railway track. It was an abandoned railway track, so I think it's fine. The spindle housing is made out of an old forklift wheel. It was like a cast iron forklift wheel that I found. The plexiglass I found on the street. The main table here is just wood coated in paint, which I need to replace at some point. This is just plywood that I found on the street and made that and painted it so it looks slightly more professional. I think it took me longer to do the electronic and the software side of it than actually build a machine. I don't think I'd ever used Linux before, and so that was just kind of a head trip to get into that. I didn't know how to use CAD at the time. I mean, I had used it in 1998 last, and so it's changed quite a bit. And so I had to teach myself CAD, which I don't recommend. That's what I'm going to be cutting out of this. And then these are all the, so each tool has its own line of code that tells the tool in the machine where to move. So you can see it getting bigger. I have trouble kind of accepting that what I'm doing is good enough a lot of times. Or also accepting that it just takes time and being okay with that rather than being annoyed that it's taking so long. Just be like, all right, it takes a long time, that's it. And also, like, I think some of it is also accepting that I am making a watch in a basement and that it's not going to be the same as a watch coming out of a airtight factory in Switzerland, because it's not an airtight factory in Switzerland. That's why I have that sign upstairs. It's like, slow the fuck down. Don't push through. I got ideas of how to improve my equipment and be able to make better watches and I think I can make a good watch at some point. I'll be able to make a really good watch. This little business owes me something, some payback, so if I can kind of wring it out a little bit and kind of keep at it a bit longer, maybe I can make it an actual business expense instead of just an expensive hobby. I made the choice to move out of my basement shop. It's been about a year now. The basement was great. It was, it was a little learning lab for me. I could go down there any time of the day or night. And there was a certain charm and romanticism, I guess, about making watches in one's basement. But I needed a bigger space. I needed more space. I needed a cleaner space. The new space is a lot better for what I'm trying to do. It's on the waterfront in Brooklyn. It's a much better environment to make precision parts. The watchmaking has definitely transitioned from from what was a hobby into a business, and I'm really doing this full time. After the first field watch that I built, I was going to make a second one, and sort of needed a name for that, and a little tongue-in-cheek, I named it the 255, which was the amount that my credit score had dropped since I invested everything. I wanted to take what I learned with the first watch and not really, I guess, change too much, but evolve that design, a simple tool watch. With the first edition watch, I was making the case out of steel. Moving on to the 255, I needed something lightweight, strong, and so went to titanium for that. It's kind of a notoriously difficult metal to work with, just because it's just really tough on tools. So there's much more complicated machining operations. Pad printing, I've started doing that. I looked around a lot for a crown that I liked that would work with a watch. Didn't find one, and so spent quite a bit of time developing and designing and prototyping, making a screw-down crown. Yeah, I guess I've come a long way. The reality is I'm one guy in the shop. Outside of the movement, I'm making every single piece of the watch. So yeah, I'm doing it all. I'm designing it, I'm sourcing materials, machining each part outside of the movement, doing the assembly, doing the testing, kind of everything. I'm kind of a one-man thing, for better or worse. I haven't found a lot of people that are doing that. I started in a basement where it was difficult to stand up straight without smashing my head into a pipe, and now I'm in a much nicer facility, machining watches out of titanium. One of them's going to space. A lot of them are going around the world to cool, adventurous people, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what this next year and next couple of years hold as far as where I can take it all.